Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of Health, Safety, and Nutrition. Let me tell you a story about a hike that I took this weekend with my children. I have two kids, one who is 8 and one who is 5. And we went on a hike in Point Richmond, which is very flat, very straight, but it was a really hot day. Now, my kids actually were doing really great throughout the hike. And then towards the end of the hike, of course, my daughter, my 8-year-old, she was just dragging her feet and complaining, and it was hot, and I can't move anymore. And it was just torture trying to get her to go 10 more feet. And every little step was hard. So I remembered, she hasn't really eaten that much today. She didn't have a lot of lunch. So I had a banana. I had snacks, of course, in my bag. So I offered her a banana. She didn't want it. She wanted a cookie, but I told her, I said, your body is probably really hungry right now. So why don't you have this banana? And then you might feel better, and then we can finish the hike. She had the banana and it was like magic. Within a minute or two, she was just chatting and talking and just much more pleasant, much more playful, not so cranky. And we were able to finish the hike, no problem. So I tell you this because that's just a great example of when your body does not have the nutrients it needs, it's hard to focus on what has to be done. Everything seems hard. Your brain and your body just do not want to cooperate with you. And how many times have we had experiences like that ourselves where we're hungry and we can't focus? Or we have children that come into our preschools that maybe didn't have breakfast that morning and they seem withdrawn, they seem hard to reach, or they're completely out of control, wild, because their body doesn't have the nutrients it needs and it's struggling. Health is comprised of so many different things. And while, of course, when you're ill, that's going to affect how you behave, things as simple as having breakfast in the morning are going to affect whether or not you're going to have a body and a brain that is ready to learn. So, can we make space for keeping that in mind so that we can help children who might come to us with those different issues? As I said last week, health is comprised of 4 things. There's physical health, emotional health, and mental health, and spiritual health. This class is really going to focus mostly on physical health, but as I mentioned before, emotional, mental, and spiritual health are very, very important, especially right now. And physically, if your body is struggling because it didn't have breakfast that morning or whatever, you didn't get enough sleep, that affects your mental and your emotional health. So the child that didn't have breakfast, or the child who was up all night because they have a new baby sister in their house and the baby's waking up often and waking the whole household up, that's going to affect that child's mental and emotional health. So we need to be ready for those things. Again, factors in children's health are going to be, some of it is going to be hereditary. So things that we're inheriting from our parents and our families. A lot of it's going to be the environment and whether or not the environment is suitable to help us thrive. And that's going to include, again, nutrition. It's going to include, home security and safety. It's going to include attachment and love and relationships. It's going to include the ability to go outside and play. It's going to include how we're treated by everybody around us. Environment makes up so many different things. And then, of course, nutrition, whether or not we have all the actual vitamins and protein and minerals and all of those things in our diet to make sure that our brain is able to optimally grow and thrive. I'm sure that some of you have taken a child development course, and so you've learned about the brain. So I'm going to go through this very quickly, and there's also a video that you're going to see that's going to go over the brain. But what we do know about the brain is that the most development happens from 0 to 6 years old. So if you were a preschool teacher, you are in charge of that child's brain when it is growing the most. And that's an amazing thing to think about. The amount of growth that a child experiences in 0 to 6 is the biggest, the most connections, the most language, everything. They're learning how to move. All of that is the most growth that they're going to experience in their entire lives. So it's very important that we take care of so many different aspects of the children because we are with them at such critical periods of their growth. Now I'm going to stop screen sharing for a second so that you can see my hand. I'm going to make a hand brain model. So you get your hand, you put your thumb in the middle. This is your amygdala, your center of your emotions. And you close your fingers over, and this is now your prefrontal cortex. So if you put this brain, this is my brain, and I put it here, the arm, my wrist is my brain stem going back down my neck. My fingers are the prefrontal cortex right here in the front. And then again, if I open it, this is my limbic system, my emotional center, and then the brainstem again going back here. Now, what we know about the brain is it develops from the oldest part to the newest part. The oldest part is your reptilian brain, and this is the brain that we share with reptiles, literally. We have reptiles, lizards, snakes, they have the same part of this brain that we have. And this brain, the brainstem focuses on survival, your fight, flight, freeze responses. This middle part is called the limbic system, and this is also called the mammalian brain. The mammalian brain is called that because we share this part of our brain with mammals. So your pet snake doesn't care when you come home. They're not going to run up and, look for affection and love because they don't have a limbic system. They just have a fight, flight, freeze response. They have a survival system. Your dog is going to run up and want you to give them attention because they have a limbic system. So that's an easy way to remember the difference between the limbic system and the brainstem. And then this is what sets us apart from all of the mammals is we have the prefrontal cortex, the neocortex, the new part of the brain, this front part here. And this is where executive function lives. This is where we can make plans months, years in advance even. This is how we can problem solve. This is how we have the capacity to do many different things at once. And it's because we have this prefrontal cortex, and this is something that we don't share with anyone. This is what makes humans unique, is that we have this prefrontal cortex. Now, what we know about the prefrontal cortex is that it lives, it continues to develop as children are growing up, all the way up until age 25. So many of you who are not yet 25 years old, you are still developing your prefrontal cortex, which is why some 16 and 17-year-olds and 18 and 19-year-olds still make questionable decisions because they are not always able to think as clearly because that part of their brain is literally still developing. Now, again, the most development is going to happen in the first 6 years of life. So we do really need to remember that this is an important time that we have these children, that we need to make sure that they are both being challenged as well as being nurtured. Now we're going to watch this great video about the brain.
Science tells us that the experiences we have in the first years of our lives actually affect the physical architecture of the developing brain. This means that brains aren't just born, they're also built over time based on our experiences. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain. Building a sturdy foundation in the earliest years provides a good base for a lifetime of good mental function and mental health. So just how is a solid brain foundation built and maintained in a developing child? One way is through what brain experts call serve and return interactions. Imagine a tennis match between a caregiver and a child, but instead of hitting a ball back and forth across a net, various forms of communication pass between the two, from eye contact to touch, from singing to simple games like peekaboo. These interactions, repeated throughout a young person's developing years, are the bricks that build a healthy foundation for all future development. But another kind of childhood experience shapes brain development too, and that's stress. Good kinds of stress, like meeting new people or studying for a test, are healthy for development because they prepare kids to cope with future challenges. Another kind of stress, called toxic stress, is bad for brain development. If a child is exposed to serious ongoing hardships like abuse and neglect, and he has no other caregiver in his life to provide support, the basic structures of his developing brain may be damaged. Without a sturdy foundation to properly support future development, he is at risk for a lifetime of health problems, development issues, even addiction. It's possible to fix some of the damage of toxic stress later on, but it's easier, more effective, and less expensive to build solid brain architecture in the first place. One of the things building sturdy brain architecture supports is the development of basic emotional and social skills, an important group of skills which scientists call executive function and self-regulation, can be thought of like air traffic control in the child's mental airspace. Think of a young child's brain as the control tower at a busy airport, all those planes landing and taking off, and all of the support systems on the ground simultaneously demand the controller's attention to avoid a crash. It's the same with a young child learning to pay attention, plan ahead, and remember and follow lots of rules. Like all of us, kids have to react to things happening in the world around them, while also dealing with worries, temptations, and obligations on their mind. As these demands for attention pile up, air traffic control helps a child regulate the flow of information, prioritize tasks, and above all, find ways to manage stress and avoid mental collisions along the way. Having this ability is a necessity for positive and level mental health. Developing effective air traffic control, overcoming toxic stress, and building solid brain architecture are things kids can't do on their own. And since strong societies are made up of healthy, contributing individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all young people have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need for positive development. To build better futures, we need to build better brains.
So what you saw from that video really demonstrates the importance of relationships in a young child's life. When children are experiencing stress, that everyday stress happens, if they have the proper support, then they're going to be able to manage and learn through these moments and understand, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do when I fall down, or this is what I'm supposed to do if I want to play with another person. Right now, children are experiencing a lot of different kinds of stress because they're stuck at home. They aren't going maybe through normal routines that they had established. They might see that their parents are stressed. But if children have a good, positive, strong attachment relationship with their caregivers, they are more likely to be able to get through these challenging times and be okay. The relationship has taught them that we're going to get through this, we're going to be okay, and we can continue to learn and grow and play together. Attachment is not just the responsibility of parents, though of course it is their main responsibility as a parent of a child, but children who come to us, we really need to work to create relationships with children. How are we making those efforts? Are we taking that time to connect with every child, and whether it's, actually making eye contact and saying hello to them, or sitting and reading a book, or just, actually playing with them versus just being adults in a classroom that are supervising them? How are we connecting with those children in order for them to feel that they are also loved and taken care of, and therefore able to thrive in a preschool environment? Attachment plays such a huge role in so many aspects of a child's life, and it's important for us not to forget that or think that that's not as important as them learning how to read or learning how to count. Like, those things are not as important as a child's relationship with the people who are taking care of them. And if you are a teacher of young children, that relationship is very, very important. Teaching stress management can happen through a lot of different things, but first of all, obviously, being available and helping children understand that you are someone who can go to, that they can go to when they're feeling upset about something. Another piece teachers have to understand is helping children learn emotional words and how to react appropriately when they're upset or when they're frustrated or when they're sad. I remember once my daughter was she decided on the drive to school as a 1.5-year-old or so that she wanted to take off her shoe. So I'm driving, and then I hear the shoe fall, and then I hear kind of a yell in the back, and she's mad because her shoe has fallen down. And I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to stop the car to help you put your shoe on. And I could hear her being frustrated about it. And I just said that. I said, oh no, are you so frustrated because your shoe fell off? Oh no. And she immediately stopped yelling and was like, yeah. And that was it. I helped give a word to a feeling that she was experiencing, and that helped her cope and helped her stop feeling so lost and upset. And she was able to just, kind of deal from then on. So, helping children learn emotional words and appropriate expressions is very, very important. Nurturing positive thinking, pointing out that things like, mommy always comes back, daddy loves you so much. Like, wow, you are really creative. You are such an inventor. Like, encouraging that kind of thinking that they are good, that they are worthy is an important job of a teacher as well. You can role play with children, practice what it looks like when children need to work through conflicts. Don't assume that a 2-year-old or even a 3-year-old know what to do when something bad happens. You have to help them learn that, oh, he took that toy from you and you didn't like it. You can tell him, I'm not done, or that's mine. And you model it through them. And these are things that take time, and this should be the goal of most preschools, is to work on this emotional skill with children. Know also that movement is very important for learning, that you can't expect children to sit and be able to receive knowledge at a very young age. Even as adults, I don't think it's great for you just to sit and listen to me all the time. So I'm going to actually do a movement activity with you right now. And it's a simple one that you can do with your own preschool children. And this is one that I might do when I can see that the kids are getting a little restless and I just need to do something to break it up a little bit. So I can do something like this. My thumbs go up and my thumbs go down. My thumbs go up and all around. Sometimes my thumbs like to laugh and play, and sometimes they like to hide. My head goes up and my head goes down. My head goes up and all around. Sometimes my head likes to laugh and play, and sometimes it likes to hide. My shoulders go up and my shoulders go down. My shoulders go up and all around. Sometimes my shoulders like to laugh and play, and sometimes they like to hide. So obviously you can do that with many different body parts, but that's a really fun way to provide movement for children to be able to learn how to regulate themselves and come back during a moment where they might be losing a little bit of control. And of course, play is so important. Children need to be given a lot of time for play. Block play, outside play, dramatic play, all of it is very important for children because that is how children learn. That is how they're going to develop their brains most optimally. So that is all that I wanted to be able to share with you today. You will have some readings to do that's going to continue to explore these ideas further, and I will see you next week.